Hello everyone, welcome to a video. Today I am going to be rating how compatible the different religions are with Judaism. Now, to give a quick, what's the word? Doesn't matter. To give a quick preface, I am not saying like these religions are good or bad. I am huge into global theology. I respect all of them. It's purely how compatible it works with Judaism's theology. On top of that, you might see a lot of more popular religions listed than the religions I put here. That's mainly because the religions I either put to be more interesting because there's something particular about them, or they're just a religion I know about, or for specifically like Taoism and Confucianism, I just don't understand how they work. I don't understand it, and I don't want to rank something I don't understand. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Christianity. Now, this symbol I'm specifically using to refer to Nicene Christianity, because most Christians would say that's like the real, and all the other ones aren't. And I also wanted an excuse to put in two other forms while I was at it. So, this is specifically Nicene Christianity. Now, they share some of the same scriptures with us. Their Old Testament, same as the Torah, but according to some rabbis, the Holy Trinity is polytheistic in a sense, maybe not fully, but it's pushing it. So for that reason, I would typically put it in A or B tier. It's a low A tier, I'd say. Next up, Islam. This is just an easy kosher. I mean, first off, just to list a few reasons why. A, does not have the Trinity stuff, and it does worship the same general, like, Abrahamic God. On top of that, it shares very similar values. They're very similar theologically. The only major difference is that one believes in eternal punishment, one does not. That's my understanding, that they do believe in it. I'm not 100% sure. I've seen different accounts, but if you're Muslim, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Then on top of that, just like on a friendliness scale, obviously current events doesn't seem too great, but if you actually look in history, I mean, Muslims saved Jews from complete extinction a few times. I mean, during the Iberian stuff that happened, Jews lived safely in Al-Andalus, which was previously controlled by the caliphs, and that dynasty, the Umayyads, continued to control Al-Andalus for the remainder of the safety of the Jews in Cordoba, especially. And, I mean, the Christians were not giving us the same treatment to the north, so it was sort of a safe haven. And, I mean, there's also a lot of Moroccan Jews because of that. So, yeah, Islam is definitely in the kosher tier. Now, Hinduism. I don't really have much to say about it. It is polytheistic, but we do share a lot of the same general values, and they're also pantheistic technically, instead of full polytheistic. So I'm going to put it in B tier. Now, Sikhism, I mean, they are so compatible. I mean, with Sikhism, one of the core things is about justice and equality. And with Judaism, of course, you have the core idea of Zedef Tirdoff, or I don't know if I know the Hebrew that was good, so it might be Tirdoff. No, it's definitely Zedef Tirdoff, which means justice you shall pursue. It's like a core idea. Along with that, Sikhs are monotheistic, so that's another W. And on top of that, just everything about it is very similar to Jewish theology. This is a high S tier / kosher. I mean, this goes in front of Islam. This is in my opinion, Islam kind of beats it out, actually, because they're Abrahamic. But still, in my opinion, these two are, like, the only religions where it's, like, from a Jewish perspective, they are 100% in, like, perfect. Obviously, they both have small things. Sikhs aren't Abrahamic. Muslims have, extra scriptures, but they're as good as it's gonna get. Now, Buddhism. Buddhism is odd because, you might know, it is atheistic, not atheistic exactly, and also it depends on the type, because there's Pure Land, which is definitely not, at least from what I know. So it kind of is odd, but I'd have to put it in A tier just behind Christianity, because they're not Abrahamic, but they do share a lot of the same ideas. And there's nothing really in the rules that are specifically incompatible with Judaism, which is why there's actually a Jewish Buddhist movement out there. So you learn something new. Now this is Hellenism, which, if you don't know what Hellenism is, it is a pagan religion that the Romans and Greeks believed. There's a major Reconstructionist movement, or I'm not sure how major it is, but there's a good amount of them in the world today. And I'm just going to throw this in Trafe right away. I mean, if you know anything about history, the whole reason that Jews were kicked out of their homeland in the first place was because of the Romans. I mean, other people did it too, but the Romans really did it. Now, I just realized I want to add Zoroastrianism in here quickly, but did not put it on the list. I'm just going to say it's in B tier. So, remember that. Zoroastrianism is a B tier, mainly just because Cyrus the Great is such a goat. He's genuinely awesome. Hashtag, can I get an OW in the chat for the Persian Empire and the Cyrus the Great being such a goat? Anyway, moving on. Asatru. Now, it's less Trafe than Hellenism, because obviously the Romans were Hellenistic and Jews don't really have any encounters with the Vikings that I know of. So for that reason, it's less Trafe than Hellenism, but it is still Trafe. Now, Universalist Unitarianism. This is, if you don't know, it is considered heretical by most mainline Christians, but they believe that everyone's going to heaven and God. They don't agree with the Trinity. I actually know there was one of the most major Universalist Unitarian churches in my area, and I was like, I knew a lot of them pretty well, and the theology works very closely. I mean, obviously they're Abrahamic, like Muslims, and they're Unitarians, so that removes the only real issue with Christianity. So they are kosher. I completely forgot about them when I said that those are the only two. This is the big three of kosher right here. Now, Baal worship. I don't know if the people watching probably don't know what Baal worship is, because it's not a faith today, but I figured I'd add it, because if you don't know, this was what, depending on whether you ask a religious leader or a historian, either what the Jews believed before Judaism, or what the people believed in Canaan before the Jews came. Either way, they were destroyed by the Jews, and you could say that's a bad thing, but I am biased here. Baal worship had tenets like, let's sacrifice babies, so I'm just gonna make a little extra row below. This is Baal worship. Bad. That's the only religion on this list that I would actively say is bad. All the other ones, they're pretty chill. I mean, there's a reason that a lot of the a lot of the religions you see that survived or are coming back, they all kind of have the same idea of like, let's not murder people, let's not sacrifice people, all that, love people who are, just be a chill guy, basically. But then, there's a lot of religions that it wasn't like that. And, obviously, most of them are gone. I mean, all of them that I can think of. I guess the Satra used to have some human sacrifice elements, but it's not as big as people like to claim. Historians find that it was really just slaves that were being sacrificed. It wasn't like anyone, and also it was still uncommon even at that. So, yeah. Now, moving on, we got the Church of Latter-day Saints, better known as the Mormons. They deny the Trinity, which would, in my mind, put them here. But they also claim to be the true Israelites, which is a pretty big no-no and so bad, in my opinion. If you're trying to be like, how compatible are they with Judaism, that it would have to go in B, maybe C tier, I think, just because of how extreme that is. Now, if I was putting the Black Hebrew Israelites in somewhere, I would also put them in C tier, but I don't really consider that a religion, and more of, I'm not really sure, it's more just like a false historical claim, which I could make a whole video about the issues with it. But just to say, the main one is that the majority of people who believe it and like claim to be Black Hebrew Israelites and follow that, like follow it religiously, are African Americans who got here from the slave trade, and people who came from the slave trade are almost entirely from West Africa, while there is some genetic evidence to show that Africans, as in someone from the general African region, have Israelite descent, it is not West Africans. It is, of course, Egyptians and Ethiopians, which makes a lot of sense, seeing as Ethiopia was briefly ruled by a Jewish queen, and Egypt is, like a huge place in Judaism. So it's just kind of almost being self-racist by lumping all Africans together when it's such a diverse area where sub-Saharan and not sub-Saharan Africans are basically two fully different cultural groups, and you can even see that in the religious divide, the language divide. It's everywhere. Now, I don't know why I'm talking on and on and on about a thing that's not even on the list, so let's move on. Wicca, it's polytheistic or pantheistic, but it's pretty chill, so I'm going to put it next to Hinduism. It's kind of it's the same as Hinduism in my mind, it's just Western, so same as Hinduism, basically. Now, you see that swastika? That is not a neo-Nazi thing. That is Jainism. Jainism is like Buddhism, but pacifist, like hyper-pacifist. It's also pantheistic, so I'm going to put it here. But it's behind Buddhism just because it's so hyper-pacifistic that I couldn't really call it, close to Jewish theology, because obviously, we don't believe in going around murdering people. We also aren't hyper-pacifistic. Now, atheism. Atheism is a quick B tier. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just, maybe even C tier. Because, No, it's B tier. Or, I'd say it's back-end A tier, because in my mind, polytheism would be more heretical than just not believing in a religion. Now, this one is just a little one that, not a lot of people know about, and so I wanted to spread the word while putting it in here. Day of Trutha, or Day of Truba. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's like the Latvian paganism, not to be the symbol is not anything related to Christianity. It just happens to look like the Crusader cross. Either way, it is super fascinating. I highly recommend looking into the people who still follow it, and it is monotheistic, which is why it is going in the front of A. That's all, folks. Have a nice day.